Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world, to the Powermax Racing E-Series Media Day, an exciting new venture into the world of sim racing, and we're very, very proud to be bringing you all along on this journey as we get our first opportunity tonight to take a look at the cars, the liveries, some of the drivers that will be competing across a full season of online sim racing on the iRacing network. A very, very exciting day indeed. I know a lot of you have been looking forward to this. We've got some big name drivers that are hoping to be joining us throughout the season. Some great racing ahead at some of the best racetracks that Britain has to offer. My name is Andy McEwen. I'll be one of two voices guiding you through not only this evening's proceedings, but also through the rest of the racing throughout the season. The other man who will be joining me is someone with a little more experience, perhaps, of sim racing than I have, and I know a lot of enthusiasm for this format as well. Dan Blake. Dan, good evening.
Good evening, Andy. Good evening, viewers. As you say, Andy, it is the media day for the Powermax Racing E-Series. These drivers will go through 10 meetings of action, most of them in the UK, but we also have guest rounds at places like Monza, Catalonia, and Lime Rock Park as well. So a big variety of circuits. He said that we have some interesting drivers lined up to race this. We even may hear from one or two of them today, and one in particular, a legend of the sport. So that's something to look forward to a bit later, but really looking forward to this championship. And although the car's not going to be driven by all of the drivers that you're going to see in the championship, we do have some of the drivers that you'll be watching throughout the 10 weeks of racing here tonight.
That's exactly right. So the reason we don't have a full grid of drivers confirmed yet is because, well, that full grid hasn't yet been decided. There will be some qualifying sessions in a few days' time, during which not only the pro drivers, but also some of the top sim drivers in the country will be invited along to qualify, and only the fastest will make it into the final championship, which will ensure that we have a really high standard of driver out there. But it gives a great opportunity for some names that maybe you won't have heard of, but who have been making a name for themselves in the world of sim racing, to go toe-to-toe with some of their real-world racing heroes. We're at Donington Park for this media day, by the way, because this will be the venue for our opening round. The Donington Park National Circuit will host the first rounds of the championship. We then, as Dan said, head across the length and breadth of the country to Brands Hatch, Silverstone, Oulton Park, Snetterton, and it all finishes on the fabulous Grand Prix circuit at Brands Hatch, with those away rounds too at Catalonia and Lime Rock Park in America, and the world-famous Monza Grand Prix circuit in Italy also hosting an evening of racing action. All of the cars will be identical when we do go racing. They're all running with the Audi RS3 TCR car, so it's essentially a one-make touring car series, no advantage whatsoever from one car to the other. It will purely be down to the drivers to make the difference. And Dan, that's one of the things that's really exciting me about this, because it's time for some of these pro drivers, especially, I think, to put their money where their mouth is. You know, there's no difference in car performance. It's all down to them.
Especially as the setups are also going to be fixed to a base setup each round. There'll be round-specific setups released to be made available for the week's action. So not only are they racing the same kind of car, their drivers will all be driving the exact same setups as well. So it really will go down to driver skill, and it'll be a great equaliser. And I think we're going for a fantastic season of racing, as I said before. And this media day at Donington Park just kicks it all off.
So what we're going to see this evening then is the cars very shortly will head out onto the circuit all together. They'll perform a couple of parade laps, essentially. They'll all be asked to keep their pit lane speed limiters on. They'll go around and do some tracking shots around the track. Gives us a chance as well to familiarise ourselves with some of the liveries, and I've already had a bit of a sneak peek at some of them, and some really professional jobs been done on making these cars all look very, very cool, but also very distinctive from each other as well. So we should be able to pick them all out in the pack when we go racing. There'll then be an open test session after that of about 30 minutes in length, during which the drivers can head out onto the track as much as they wish, really, get some laps in. For those that are going to be competing in the full series, that's some crucial familiarisation time. For those who aren't, it's a chance to go out there and enjoy what is one of the most enjoyable cars on iRacing. This Audi RS3 LMS TCR car is a beautifully balanced car. It's got good power, it's got quite a nice long and wide wheelbase as well, so it handles really nicely. And the Donington Park National Circuit a very enjoyable place to drive it as well. We're seeing the first of the cars now moving in the pit lane too, so they're about to head out onto the circuit. And some brilliant liveries here, aren't there, Dan? We've seen a couple of them as we've been waiting for everyone to load in. We'll get a proper view of them now. But they really do look the business, don't they?
As you said, Andy, some very professional liveries, and they look absolutely pristine. So that is something that we'll be seeing throughout the session. There, you see there, that is one of the cars there, Skull Club across the front of it. The Audi RS3 TCR. That is Nicole Foggy behind the wheel of that one. And Nicole Foggy actually will be racing in the actual championship. He'll be racing for the team XVR. His teammate will be Johnny Brandon in that one. So Nicole Foggy there in car number 25 is one of the actual drivers we'll be seeing in this series that is powered by Next Gen Racing, the Power Max Racing E-Series. So Nicole Foggy, one of the drivers there, and might be his teammate Johnny Brandon, in fact, pulling up alongside him as well. And it's like they're going to go out 2x2 in team order.
That, I believe, is the plan, but having attended lots of real-world media days where they try this sort of thing, I know that this can sometimes take a little bit of doing. It's not always that easy to get the drivers to arrange themselves correctly. Aston's go out there on the track and drive flat out, easy peasy, but Aston's go out there on the pit lane speed limiter and not overtake each other, not run into each other, line up alongside the right car. That can sometimes prove to be a bit more of a challenge, but they're making their way out onto the circuit now, and it's a chance as well, Dan, for us to familiarise ourselves with the liveries too, because when we do go racing, I think we're going to see some real action-packed stuff. It's going to be hard enough to keep up with everything that's going on out on the track as it is, and this is a great opportunity for us to take a look at what some of the cars will look like. They're making their way down through the Craner curves now, a spectacular sequence of corners this, and so far so good. Everyone behaving themselves, everyone keeping a safe distance from each other, and the media day for the Power Max Racing E-Series officially underway.
Going out in thinking two different groups as well. I think this is the first group of drivers, and then we'll have a second group going out later. So the first group of liveries we see there, that looks like one of the we've got to see the Power Max there. It's also the XVR car. There's also Year One Racing out there as well. Let's see a couple of their cars there. You won't miss those ones. The yellow, black, purple liveries. Regular reviewers on iRacing will recognise that livery from some of the other series that the team race in, as we now have a couple more drivers looking to join the back of the pack, and these liveries look absolutely beautiful, and it's going to be really looking forward to seeing them out racing in at rounds all through the season.
And this will be the venue that we see those first races at, of course, as I said, on the Donington Park National Circuit. There's the Joyce Design livery that we're getting a good look at there. Bobby Thompson, British touring car driver, will be one of the drivers definitely driving those cars. I don't think he's with us tonight, but Bobby Thompson and Ben Henderson, who is at the wheel of the car we're following now, also hoping to join him. And Bobby Thompson, who has a couple of years' experience now of top-level touring car racing in the UK. Not only a famous name, but also a very popular driver, isn't he, Dan? So I think a lot of spectators and our viewers throughout the championship are going to have their eyes on him.
Bobby, one of young and upcoming drivers in the BTCC, and we see in the current era of the British Touring Car Championship that there is a new breed of young and fast drivers that are definitely sort of knocking the noses of some of the more experienced and wiser heads in the championship as they intermingle. And it's going to be Bobby Thompson, just one of those drivers who gets better year on year, and it'd be interesting to see how he gets on in this championship. Another driver that we mentioned earlier who's had some touring car racing experience is Max Coates. He'll be racing in this championship as well. Max Coates will be very familiar to names in the TOCA paddock, and he's also another very popular driver in the TOCA ranks.
He's going to be, having raced for many seasons now in the Renault UK Clio Cup, he's now moving over into Mini Challenge. He's also competed in the BTCC in the past in one of the Infinities that I believe Aidan Moffat's squad are running now for the 2020 season. So the cars have completed their first lap, and they are now just lining up on the grid and waiting for the last couple to get in position before I think they will head back around once again. So we've already mentioned a couple of the exciting names that we'll see out there racing, and let me tell you, it's not just touring car stars that will have racing with us in this Powermax Racing E-Series, but drivers with top-level sports car experience, single-seater races as well. And one of the fascinations for me, Dan, will be to see how they get on against these top-level sim racers that will be joining us from the qualifying sessions in a few days' time, hoping to qualify their way in, because it's not necessarily going to be the case that the drivers that have extensive real-world experience are automatically the quickest. We see quite often in this sort of competition, the sim racers sometimes, particularly early in the season, have a bit of an edge.
Sim racers are very used to iRacing and the package that we're racing on. It may take some of the real-life drivers maybe a week or two to get used to it, but another important thing to remember is that the pros will actually have a week to practice, because where the sim racers will be qualifying at Brands Hatch Indy next week, the pro drivers won't actually be part of the qualifying as far as I'm aware. They'll be having a week off, and they'll be ready for the first round at Donington on the 29th of April. So the pro drivers will actually have an extra week, and I'm sure they'll be getting plenty of laps under their belts, because they won't want the sim racers to be beating them. And as a pro racing driver, they'll be wanting to make sure that they can put the best possible display on that they can.
Always a certain level of pressure, I think, isn't there, on the shoulders of the real-world drivers, because maybe there is that expectation that they're going to come into a sim racing competition and be straight on the pace, because they do this for a living. You know, this is what they've been doing, and some of the drivers that we'll see racing with us in this series have been doing it for decades, not just years. And there is that expectation that they will be the favourites, and I think that pressure sometimes it can get to them, but it also means that they have to take this seriously, because they don't want to be beaten by the sim racers. They don't want to be beaten by anyone. They're competitive. That's why they are professional racing drivers. And I think when we get down to the nitty gritty and the elbows go out and the racing starts to heat up properly, then we will see a few rivalries start to form, not only between drivers that have shared the racetrack in the real world, but also some of their new sim racing competition.
Some of the sim racing drivers, the ones who race for the more professional teams, it's hard to forget. It's easy to forget sometimes that sim racing becoming so big, especially with the current situation in the world, that there are some big prize monies available in the iRacing service. And some of these drivers who are at the top of the levels of their game, they'll be practicing for 10, 20 hours a week. They're certainly no slouches and very experienced, and they put a lot of dedication and time into their iRacing and perfecting their technique. So the real-world racing drivers are really going to have to learn the tracks and learn the service and the way the car handles, of course, on these fixed setups, because the sim racing drivers that will have racing with us in this championship are some of the very best in this car that the world of iRacing has to offer. And we know that they'll be putting in many, many hours, countless hours, in the lead-up to the races.
Yeah, and you mentioned prizes too. There are some pretty tasty prizes on the line being supplied by various series sponsors, but we've got the trophy that Simon McNally, who we'll be hearing from later on, was telling us about earlier. That sounds really cool. That's an official BTCC brake disc that's going to be turned into a winner's trophy. There's also an even bigger prize that we're not allowed to tell you yet, but there's something that is well and truly worth racing for, that the overall champion will get come the end of the season, and that is very much a money can't buy prize. And that is the big thing here. It's particularly for the sim racers, they want to impress. This is not just a chance to show that they know what they're doing behind the wheel of a sim, but also to maybe impress some of the team managers and some of the people that maybe they wouldn't have the opportunity to impress in the real world. They now have a stage on which to perform, and you never know, we could well see some names appearing in series like this one that maybe start to make it out onto the real racetrack in years to come.
Exactly. You see in past years, there's things like the GT Academy where drivers like Jan Mardenborough, Lucas Ordonez, they've come through. Even myself, to some extent, so I began off on iRacing and then started racing in the real world. And sim racing is now being seen as a much more acceptable launch pad to a career. You'll see some people who will spend years in karting, and there are others that will go straight from the sims out into the real world. And it's fantastic to see that some of these drivers that we're seeing now, that do their sim racing, they do have the opportunity to impress the right people, and we could very well see them on club racing circuits or even higher level stuff in years to come.
I think it's fair to say, isn't it, Dan, that a lot of people who are involved in real world racing, they can sometimes be guilty, I think, of looking down their noses a bit at sim racing, and I know I've been guilty of that in the past too. But the deeper you delve into this world, you realise this is a serious business. I mean, you try and drive a car on iRacing, like this Audi RS3 LMS TCR car we'll be racing within the PowerMax Racing E-Series. You try and get behind the wheel of this, and it's not easy, you know, because it handles like a real racing car. As it's no surprise, really, that the people that are good at this can then transition quite nicely, actually, into a proper racing car and be on the pace, you know. So I think the more that I've learned about this sort of format, and the more I've learned about iRacing and other sims that are out there too, the more I've realised that this might well be a viable way into motorsport, and it is perhaps cheaper than the karting route that you mentioned a lot of drivers have traditionally taken. I think more and more people now are realising if you want to get into racing, maybe this is the way to go.
And also, this championship is actually being backed by Motorsport UK themselves. Motorsport UK, the governing body for racing in the United Kingdom, have put their support behind this championship as well, which shows just how serious this has been taken at all levels, that MS UK themselves are backing and endorsing this championship.
Which is some pretty serious endorsement as well, and Motorsport UK we are very, very grateful to have on board, because that does sort of give it that extra kind of official edge, doesn't it? So yeah, we're, as you can probably tell, quite excited about what the future holds for the PowerMax Racing E-Series, as the cars then head out onto what I believe is this group's final parade lap around the circuit. We are going to take a very short break, but we'll be back with more action in just a few minutes' time.
and it is a really fun car to drive. Obviously, the new tyre model means that the tyres the first couple of laps can be a little bit sketchy, but I don't think this will be the only time this season that we see 3-wide action on a straight, so let's get used to that, sight viewers. But as I say, the car is a very good car to drive, and I think it's something that in order to be quick in, the little nuances and tricks with the car that some will find hard to master, but once you sort of get I know we've got some of the quickest TCR drivers, sort of people of Johnny Brandon, Nicole Foggy, Chris Daines, Mark Fletcher, the very quick drivers, and it'd be great to see how they throw these TCR cars around when the season starts here in 2 weeks' time. But the TCR car, we've had over 600 people apply to race in the series, so it just shows how popular touring car racing is now it's here on the iRacing service.
Yeah, definitely, and also how much buzz this series has generated as well, with so many drivers wanting to be a part of it. But only a select few will get to take part in our races and be on the grid here at Donington for that opening round in a few weeks' time. And it looks as though we're going to have a very high quality grid indeed. We were having a look there at the AMS hire car. We don't know yet who's going to be in that team. They will be 2 spots that are filled by drivers that qualify their way in a few days' time. There will be multiple sessions going live at the same time, and everyone gets a limited number of laps basically in which to set a time, and only the very quickest will make it through to race alongside some of their racing heroes. So the Audi TCR cars once again now launch off the line, and it's fair to say that there is a lot of anticipation ahead of this new series, which will be kicking off, as we've said, at the Donington Park circuit. Some other famous names that we know will be taking part. We've got Mike Epps, another driver with British Touring Car Championship experience. We're also expecting to see the one, the only Stuart Lyons taking part. Stuart is one of the biggest characters in British motorsport. Another driver, of course, who's been racing previously in the BTCC and in TCR racing as well. Tom Onslow Cole, a returning name, someone who we saw racing in the BTCC, well, I guess now getting on for about a decade ago. I think 2013 possibly was his last full season, somewhere around there. He's been off racing GT cars around the continent, but he's coming on board. James Collado as well, a driver with extensive top-level single-seater and sports car experience too. And there is one other driver as well that we're hoping to not only have with us on the track, but also maybe joining us for a chat later on. Only a double British touring car champion, Dan.
Yeah, Jason Plato. So Jason Plato, one of the legends of touring car racing across the world, one of the most well-known names in the British Touring Car Championship. He will be racing in this championship, and also, as you say, we hope to have a few words with him later as well to see how he's coping with the enforced off-season and what he thinks about the championship. Another also former British touring car name that we'll have with us as well is Dave Newsham, of course, who was a Power Max racing driver for a couple of years as well. So a returning driver there, Dave Newsham, who knows the Power Max team very well. And we've also got another young talent, Seb Perez, as well, races in the Porsche Carrera Cup last year. He'll be also another driver taking part in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. And Seb Perez, a very exciting young driver, not only in the UK, but starting to get a bit more international experience, not only actually in racing cars, but also rallying. Of course, his father, Steve, is one of Britain's most successful national level rally drivers. Does a lot of historic rallying as well. And I know Seb's been jumping behind the wheel of, I think, a historic Porsche rally car as well in recent times. So looking forward to seeing how he gets on. Right, now I believe we have a couple of people waiting to have a chat with us over the course of the evening, and the first of those drivers that we are going to try and bring in now, Dan, is the aforementioned Mr. Plato. Now, Dan, if you want to go and find him and drag him in, we'll maybe have a chat with our double British touring car champion, the winningest driver in BTCC history, who is looking forward, I know, to racing with us in this series, but doesn't have a huge amount of experience in sim racing. He was, I think, having his sim rig delivered either today or yesterday. It's all been very last minute for Jason, but I know that he is waiting to have a chat with us, and we can get his thoughts hopefully in the next few minutes as to what he expects from this Power Max Racing E-Series. And I would be interested actually to see what his thoughts are, because I don't know how he's going to go in this. I would imagine he maybe doesn't really know how it's all going to go, because he has, as I've said, not very much experience in sim racing at all. Having a look out there, that's the Works liveried car. Again, we don't know the two drivers that will be in those cars for the start of the season. Another 2 seats that are left vacant for the top qualifiers, and it's, I think about 2/3 or so of the grid will be made up of drivers that qualify their way in. So it's not a series that just gifts its drives to the top level pros. A certain amount of them get in that way, but anybody else that wants to come and race with us has to compete through those qualifying sessions and make it in on time.
Should we get Si McNally in from Power Max Racing, one of the organisers of the championship?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a chat.
Yeah, let's get Si in to have a chat with us.
Si McNally is kind of the brains behind the operation, really. Si McNally of Power Max Racing, and he, I know, has been instrumental in getting this series off the ground.
It's like we're having a few issues getting people into the commentary box at the moment, so we'll try to get that sorted as soon as possible for you to bring the interview with Si McNally and also a long-awaited interview with Jason Plato.
Absolutely, we've bigged it up now, so we better be able to talk to him before the evening's out. I'm sure we will do, though, as you can imagine, with the heavy reliance on technology and internet connection, 2 things that always make me nervous. We can sometimes have a couple of technical problems. I believe our top technical boffins have been on the case now. We're going to be able to drag a couple of people in to have a chat. There we go. Jason Plato has joined us. We were bigging you up there. We were worried that we might not get the chance to have a chat with you, but good evening. How are you doing?
I'm all right, actually. How are you?
Well, indeed. All the better for hearing from you. Very excited to see how you get on with this whole sim racing thing. I believe you're not the most experienced driver on the grid, possibly.
Oh, no one's going to believe it, but I just don't. I don't do sims. I'm not a great gamer. I mean, the only thing I seem to play is with my girls is a bit of Red Dead Redemption 2, which they shouldn't be playing because they're underage, but it's a great game. And that's about it, to be honest. So I don't really drive on sims, but I've just got a rig installed today, and do you know what? It's amazing, actually. Yeah, it's very immersive. It doesn't feel real, but the level of concentration and focus, and what you do in a car in terms of what you're doing with your head, your brain, is about right. Actually, it's the queuing's not right. It doesn't feel like a real car. And I'm playing around with all sorts of different things. But yeah, it's really great fun. I mean, I'm a bit concerned it might destroy my marriage, actually, because I think I'm going to be up here. I've got a little annex above my garage, and I've got a little tiny room up there, which we converted. It used to be my office, and then we converted it into like a granny annex type thing. And there's a little bedroom up there with a slidey door, and that's where I've got my sim rig. But I did have the forethought to stock the fridge, which is up here, full of beer.
Of course.
So, yeah, I think what I've probably got to do is I've probably got to get myself in the doghouse and do something wrong and then be told off and be sent to the annex where I can get on my rig and drive all night.
I'd imagine getting in trouble is something you'll find difficult to do, Jason, I'm sure, but we all hope you will, really, because we want to see more of you in this sim racing. And I know you were really keen to be involved with this, weren't you? Because you, like the rest of us, are kind of missing going racing, aren't you?
Oh, do you know, I mean, it's just awful, isn't it? But I mean, it is, first of all, problems, us missing the road racing is we're in very, very difficult times at the moment, and yeah, it's really quite serious, and this might just might keep us all engaged in motor racing, and it'll provide some entertainment, a bit of fun. I'm looking forward to. I think probably the right expression would be having my ass kicked by an 11-year-old, and then kicked again by a 12-year-old, and then me, being happy with coming in the bottom half of the grid, because a good pal of mine who's helped me sort this rig out, who's in the simulator business, Darren Turner. He did the Legends race a couple of weekends ago, and Dario Franchitti won it. Darren was second, and I was saying, how tricky is it? And he said, well, to be honest, I was a bit lucky, but he did 9 hours testing, and he's still not on the pace.
You're expecting a pretty high level of competition then when you do get out there.
It's like we're having some technical problems with Jason Plato's connection at the moment, but as I said, Andy, it's, even for someone of Jason's experience and stature, coming into sim racing, it seems like he's realised it may be a bit of a bigger challenge than he initially thought.
You're back.
Looks like we've lost the connection there to Jason Plato, Andy, but as I was saying, it seems like that Jason is looking forward to getting behind the wheel in the championship, and as he was saying, it's maybe a bit more of a challenge than he initially thought, as we see the cars now out for the first time in anger in the session. They're practicing for, but they have an hour, so they've done the media day section of the day, and now they're doing the 1 hour of free practice, and as you say, it's the first time we'll actually get to see the drivers out on the circuit. Some of these, of course, will be racing in the championship as well, so even though it's a test session, they'll be scouting each other and seeing what pace that people have going into the first rounds in 2 weeks' time. So we're going to speak to Si McNally, as you say, one of the organisers of the Power Match Championship here, and so you get Si in. Now, are you with us now, Si? Can you hear me, Si?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Hello, Si. I was just saying that you're one of the main brains behind this project. What was it that inspired you to get the championship underway for the Power Max Racing E-Series here, and with this powered by Next Gen Racing?
It's something we'd been looking at doing for a little while. So we were approached by Virtual Racing Association before Christmas. We've been looking at it for a while, and then obviously with the current situation, it kind of G'd us up a little bit. We spoke to the guys from Next Gen, and we thought, actually, it's a really good excuse for us to go out there and do something both for the fans, to keep the fans engaged, and also for all of our partners as well, because obviously with the cars effectively in lockdown as much as we are, we need to get some engagement out there.
Exactly, and you put together a fantastic lineup of drivers for this one. We got drivers from all disciplines of real life racing. We have single-seater drivers, we have drivers who have been in sports car racing, we have drivers who the very top of the touring car level game, and the fact we've been able to get Jason Plato in the championship as well is just a testament to the level that this championship's going to be.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think it started off, from small acorns, mighty oaks do grow, and I think the way we've kind of put it out there, working with Fastar, who are a streamer, you can actually see the car now, and Fast Car Magazine and Motorsport UK, we've put together a bit of a package that's got a really strong reach. So, you know, from the start, we wanted JP to be involved, obviously, because he drives for us. And then a lot of the other drivers we've got have actually approached us and come to us and obviously seen what we're doing. And we've obviously done something right. I mean, there's been a lot of work gone in behind the scenes from a lot of people. But yeah, I think we've obviously done something right.
As you say, we've got seven drivers as well, which have had previous experience in the British Touring Car Championship. So drivers who may not be familiar with the TCR cars we're driving, but they are touring car drivers, and it's something that we're looking forward to seeing, that some battles from the past may be reignited as well. We've got likes of Dave Newsham, one of your former drivers as well, Max Coates, Tom Onslow Cole, Stuart Lyons, got Mike Epps, Bobby Thompson, all these names, touring car drivers that the fans at home will know and appreciate.
Yeah, I think JP made a good point actually, in that it's going to be interesting to see, you know, these kind of seasoned drivers like himself and Dave Newsham and Tom Onslow Cole and all of the guys up against these kind of the new school esports drivers, I guess, because it's quite a different thing from what they're saying. Like, driving esports is quite a different thing to actually racing for real. It's going to be a really interesting thing to see how they compare, I think.
Yes, with esports there are certain limitations. You don't get that feel. But as Jason was saying before, the sort of key attributes need the concentration levels, the knowing the tracks, the trying to get the best out of your machine. It's all transferable into the real world, and you put together a fantastic calendar as well. We've got the best of the British circuits, and we also have those 3 away rounds, particularly the one at Monza. I think there would be one to be looked forward to as well.
Yeah, so we wanted to base it as much around the BTCC circuit as we could. So obviously there's only 7 of those circuits that are actually on the game. So we kind of we had a chat behind the scenes to see which were the most appropriate and the most interesting tracks to kind of mix it up a little bit. And I think between us we've come up with a really good mix. Actually, it should make some really interesting.
We alluded earlier to prizes, and we were talking about the trophy which Central Scanning will do with the brake disc. Possibly you could give us a bit more information about that and what inspired the decision to get something like that done?
Yeah, so that was actually their idea. I mean, we were talking to them. So they, a company called Central Scanning, they do all of our 3D printing work and all of our scanning work for things like brake discs and air filter boxes and things like that. And we were kind of talking to them about coming up with something a little bit different, and they actually came up with the idea that we're going to get one of our used brake discs off the BTCC cars. They're going to 3D print in aluminium a BTCC brake caliper that obviously will bolt to it, and it's going to have the name of the winner on it, and we'll have all the names of the sponsors and everything on it as well. So it's quite a unique, never to be repeated trophy. I think that will take pride of place on somebody's fireplace.
That is truly excellent to hear, but we haven't just got that prize as well. We've got the big prize as well, which we'll allude to later on in this process, and there's also smaller prizes as well. A lot of your partners and sponsors have got on board and are providing prizes as well, which is great to see the level of engagement, not just from the drivers and that, but also from the sponsors and partners as well. Everyone seems to be really excited to be involved with the championship.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, obviously, a few weeks ago when all this started, we went out to all our partners and told them what we were planning to do, and I think they all bought into it, and it's been fantastic working with everybody. One of the main examples is one of the bigger prizes is Motor Drive, who produce all of our seats for our BTCC cars. They are giving the winner of the top tier one of their FIA approved seats, so a proper racing seat, basically replica of the BTCC seat. Which is going to be custom stitched with all the logos from the championship on it, and then Joyce Design are going to design a custom wrap for the back of it to make it, to be a properly unique thing. It's going to be a really cool thing. Actually, I'm kind of jealous.
Excellent. So, as you say, there's a lot of prizes there. So it's not just the amount of prizes. We have got some really great money can't buy and sort of just really good prizes in store that drivers will be fighting even harder to get for. Is there any round in particular side that you're looking forward to the most, or is it sort of the season as a whole and seeing how it all develops?
All of it, to be honest. I mean, I'm just excited to get it going. I mean, there's been so much work behind the scenes to get it to the point that we're at now. It's just exciting to see everything actually out on track. And I think as the season develops and we get more and more people watching it and more people getting involved with it, it's going to be.
And is there any thank yous that you'd like to express out on the stream as well for your partners and sponsors and the people who've got us this far?
Everyone, to be honest. A massive shout out's got to go to all the guys from Next Gen, Virtual Racing Association, and from Year One. They've just been, the amount of work that they've all put in behind the scenes has been absolutely phenomenal. And obviously to all of our sponsors as well, because we wouldn't be able to race the real cars without these guys. And I think this is our way of giving them some exposure while we're kind of stuck indoors. We wouldn't be able to do any of it without anybody, to be honest.
Excellent stuff there, Si, and as you say, we won't be able to do this like any of these people as well, so thank you very much for bringing us the series as well, and I hope you enjoy the season and the rest of today's Media Day. So that was Si McNally from Paramax Racing, the organiser of the championship, and as I say, there was a lot of effort that's gone in to the championship, not just from themselves, but a lot of different people as well who've all come together to produce what is looking on paper to be an absolutely fantastic championship, and one for the ages as well. Some absolutely astonishing prizes there. Some money can't buy ones. Obviously, there's a couple that we can't mention at the moment, but as we get nearer to the end of the season and we start racing, then all will become clear. But it's certainly a prize that I wish I was racing out there to get. So that'd be something for the drivers to really focus on. And as we see now, we are looking at the cars going around the circuit here at Donington Park on the Media Day practice session. They've done their 1 hour of the track and shots, and we're now into what is the session for the 1 hour session which accompanies it. A very similar format to the way the actual BTCC Media Day runs, where you have your practice session after you've done the work as such with the media shots, and all these cars, as I say, looking exemplary and pristine, and a great time to get the drivers and the teams together to get the photos. So at now at times to see, obviously we've got some of our drivers who will be competing in the championship out on track at the moment, and it's two of them which actually top the times at the moment. Nicole Foggy and Johnny Brandon, who are driving for XVR. Nicole Foggy a 1:12.138, and he's just under a tenth of a second ahead of his teammate Johnny Brandon at 1 minute 12.210, as the cars now come back into the pit lane, it looks like, after about 10 minutes of this practice session. And it looks like we've got two waves of cars which are practicing potentially in 10-minute bursts here. But out of the first lot of drivers that have gone out on track, Nicole Foggy and Johnny Brandon top the drivers that are in championship. Also, the Year One racing drivers, Mark Fletcher and Chris Dane, separated by just about half a tenth of a second. So Mark Fletcher and Chris Danes will be driving in the championship as well. See if there's any other drivers out there which are going to be in the championship. Those are the ones at the top of the ones at the top of the timing screen at the moment. Ben Henderson as well. We saw him earlier. He'll be in the Joyce Design car, partnering Bobby Thompson. His fastest lap so far, 1:13.623. So Ben Henderson, also one of the drivers that we will have with us. And we've got a lot of exciting teams to come along. And to say, the qualifying process for this does start next Wednesday at Brands Hatch Indy, where the drivers will have a 30-minute practice session, and then they'll have 4 laps. It's basically like a qualifying run to get their best times in. And the 20 fastest drivers, I believe it is, from that session, there'll be many sessions staggered across the evening, and we will try and bring you as close to the action as we can here on Year One Racing TV. Also, a quick shout out to our partners for this official E-Series, Next Gen Racing, the Virtual Racing Association VRA, the XVR Sim Racing Team, and of course Year One Racing TV as well. We also would like to thank the following Paramax Racing sponsors. We've got Absolute Alignment, Adrian Flux, Amshire, Central Scanning, Colourpoint, DNA Tuning, Octane Motorsport, DMS Technologies, Valley Red Top, Dread, iBack, Extreme 14, iCatchers, Fast R, Fast Car, Fuchs, Garage Floor, Tile Company, Geisen, ITG, Joyce Design, LifeCheck, Mastervolt, Maximum Networks, Miltech, Motor Drive, OMP, NGK, PowerMax, Performance Metals, PX Wheels, the Royal Air Force, Rotec, Sales Eye, SIG, Steel Seal, Tang Tools, Works, WT Author, Z Cars, and Zerkotech. And as you see there, a big list of companies and organisations that have made this championship possible. So thank you to each and every one of those sponsors and partners that we have that have come in for the PowerMax Racing E-Series powered by Next Gen Racing. We were speaking about the calendar earlier, and I believe that we have Jason Plato is going to be coming back in to finish off the conversation that we were having with him earlier. Unfortunately, technical problems earlier on meant we had to curtail the interview, and I believe we have Jason back with us now.
God, what's going on with all this technology?
I don't know, Jason. But
mate, I was basically speaking to myself for about 4 minutes, I think. I don't know what you heard.
The last we heard, you were saying about the challenges of sim racing and about how the level of competition is going to be strong. And also, a lot of your contemporaries from the British Touring Car Championship. We've got a few of your rivals for the season when we get back underway racing, and it'd be good to get back out and race with your rivals as well.
What you mean in the virtual world, in the sim world?
Yeah, because
it's going to be really interesting actually, because I've not done much on sims. In fact, I've only got my rig today, so I'm looking forward to it actually, because I think you never stop learning, and I think I'm on a big steep learning curve. I spoke to my mate who's helped me put all this sim together, a guy called Darren Turner, who obviously anyone who's involved in motor racing will know. And he's kind of Mr. Sim, and I was asking him about the Legends race he did last week, a couple of weekends ago. And he did like 5-6 hours solid testing. And I'm like, really? He said, mate, honestly, you just got to put the hours in, otherwise you'll be nowhere. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
As you say, you'll be getting a lot of practice in, and there's a couple of weeks break because the actual drivers are qualifying next week. But so I'm guessing that'd be the opportunity you get to get your practice in and prepare for the first round here at Donington Park National on the 29th of April.
Well, I'm expecting a free pass. Do I not get like a buy? Do I not get an immediate entry for being old and wizened?
You're already going to be in the main competition. You won't have to qualify, Jason. So the week when the sim racers are all fighting it out to take on yourself and the rest of the professional drivers, you'll be able to get your practice in, and it's going to be good. So, yeah, we give you the extra week.
And when's the free practice? Is it like an official free practice?
I believe you'll have to speak to the organisers, but I'm sure there will be some practices going up all through the weeks and leading up to the championship, as you say, starting on the 29th of April. And you were saying before, Jason, about being new to sim racing as well. Some of these touring car drivers are rather quick. Michael Epps in recent weeks has proven to be rather shrewd behind the wheel of a sim. So if you need any tips, yes, he has. He's been involved in the race, and also your former teammate Darren Turner as well. He's been doing well in the Legends race. He was out racing at Sebring last week, and the race at Jensen Button won. He's only just got a rig as well. So
yeah, it's going to be really good fun. Actually, I'm looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. I mean, I'm not sure what it's going to do to my life because, in the real world, then you can't go testing every day, and you can't go testing at 3 o'clock in the morning, and you can't start testing at 6 at night and then continue testing until 6 in the morning. Well, you can on this, and and you know what? Anyone that's had a long career like me, we're all a bit addicted to it, and we've got addictive personalities, and I'm just hoping it's not just going to turn my world upside down, where I just turn into some weirdo who never comes out of the shed.
Being a racer myself in club racing in the Mazda MX-5s, I know exactly where you're coming from. It's sort of, you just got to find that last little half a tenth or tenth, and it does get rather addictive. So I fully understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's going to be fun.
Have you ever raced or driven a TCR car before, or is this sort of your first experience? No, so it's brand new for you as well, a TCR. Have you been able to get out in the car yet at all?
No, I haven't. I've only just downloaded it, just literally 10 minutes before we went online with you guys earlier, because I couldn't find the car. I was looking for the wrong car. So I've not yet driven it. So I'm going to go and tuck my girls up in bed in a minute and give them a kiss, and then scoff some food down my throat, which I've done I've made the first error tonight where I was busy over here trying to get an IndyCar around in Indianapolis and trying to take the rear wing off just so I could feel it moving, and I missed a text message to say that dinner was ready.
What sort of food are you going to be indulging in then, Jason?
You what, mate?
What sort of food is it you're going to be indulging in once you finish with us?
Well, do you know what? I'm not 100% sure. I think we've got a bit of a casserole on the go, and but nevertheless, that was at 6 o'clock, and I've missed it. So I'm going to sneak over there, offer to make a cup of tea, or try and earn some more brownie points, and see how the land lies, and then hopefully, who knows, I might be able to get back over here later and do some laps in what I've heard is a bit of an understeerer, which is that Audi.
Yeah, the first couple of laps, you need to be a bit careful on the tyres as well. It can be a bit sketchy, but thank you very much for joining us tonight, Jason, and letting us know about your experiences in being new to sim racing. I'll let you get back to your casserole, but as I say, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck for the season, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. See you guys.
That's okay. Thank you, Jason.
Bye.
So that is Jason Plater there, who's been joining us on Year One Racing TV there. Missed his casserole, so we better let him get back to that. But Jason is very keen to get involved in sim racing, and it's great to see that someone with Jason's experience, his touring cars career started in the late 90s, famously going outside of Williams and seeing Frank Williams about the drive, as you see. He's also got an autobiography out as well, which is well worth a read. So if you have a look on any places that sell books for Jason Plater's autobiography, a lot of facts and a lot of funny stories in there from his career. So Jason Plater, a real character, and we're delighted to have him in the championship here as well. So one of many drivers you'll see racing here in the Power Max Racing E-Series powered by Next Gen Racing. As you see more cars now currently on track. Speaking of real drivers, we're looking at Ben Sharp at the moment. Ben Sharp not entered for the championship currently as one of the pro drivers, but somebody who races in real life as well in the Dislock Civic Cup. So Ben Sharp, a driver that has experience in front wheel drive cars, and there's a few other drivers as well who've agreed to help us out tonight as well to get the media launch underway. Also another driver which has had a lot of success in front wheel drive that we're going to see is Chris Knox, a double mini challenge champion. He'll be joining us in the championship as well. As we see some close side by side racing there going up towards McLean's with the two XVR cars of Brandon and Foggy, followed closely by another one of the XVR cars of Lane O'Connor. Lane is knocked down to race, I believe, in the series, or is he? In fact, let's have a look at my entry list and see if Lane O'Connor is on the list of drivers. I think I did see him actually on the list. Yes, he is. So Lane O'Connor in the VRA team. He will be racing for VRA as one of the partners of the championship there with the NHS Heroes livery. And during these times, of course, we can never say enough to thank our NHS staff and workers for helping us get through what is a very unprecedented times in the world at the moment. So thank you very much to each and every member of the NHS for watching this broadcast, or even the ones who aren't watching as well, because without you, I think we'd be in a lot worse position than we currently are. As we now see, of course, the cars are still going around doing their practice, going down the Craner curves, and Donington Park, a circuit at 3.15 kilometres, which is very fast and flowing, and this will be the opening round of the championship. So what we see now will be inquisitive of some of the scenes that we'll be seeing when we get underway on the 29th of April. And I'm looking forward as well to seeing who we get qualify through the qualifiers. Some very quick drivers on the iRacing service, and I imagine as well we'll get club racers and racers from sort of other championships and all around the world who've seen this broadcast tonight and have entered the competition, and I fancy a bit of that. So we'll look forward to seeing I think we're going to have a very strong quality of entrant into the championship, and the final 20 who do get through, it's going to be enthralling to see who they are, and there may be some surprises along the way as well, because if you get through a 600 plus qualifying field, it means you are very much at the top of your game, and any of the 20 drivers who get through into the qualifiers, I think, is somebody who could potentially win it. Apologies for some of the technical delays we've had this evening. Andy McEwen has unfortunately been one of the victims of that. What we'll do is we will go through the championship schedule and calendar for you. As you say, we've got as you see, we'll be on the screen shortly, we have got the media day today at Donington Park National. We have the qualifiers next week at Brands Hatch Indy on the 22nd of April, leading into the first weekend of the championship at Donington Park National on Wednesday the 29th. For the races will be on Wednesday nights. We actually have the format, I believe, here as well of what will be going on. So we will have the round format will be 20 minutes of practice, and there'll be different tiers and sessions depending on the drivers who've qualified for which tiers. We'll be covering the top tier every week here on Year One Racing TV. There'll be 15 minutes of qualifying before we go into race one, which will be a 20-minute encounter. There'll then be a 15 to 20-minute break to sort out the reverse grid. We haven't got the list of what the reverse grid will. It may be done by a spinning wheel randomly. That's something. There's still a few details to be finalised, but there will be a reverse grid, it seems, for the second race. And then there'll be a 10-minute practice before the start of the second race, and then we will go on for our second race of each meeting, which would be a 20-minute long. It's a top 10 from the race one result in a reverse grid. So the top 10 from race one will be reversed, and that will bring some more interesting racing. As we've seen in the British Touring Car Championship, the reverse grid races, some of the most exciting races of the season, and looking forward to seeing that. But as we were saying about the calendar, we start here at Donington Park on the 29th of April before going to Brands Hatch on the Indy circuit on the 6th of May, closely followed the week after by Silverstone National for rounds 5 and 6 before we make our first trip abroad, where we go to Monza on the 20th of May, and that's one that many drivers and spectators alike, I'm sure, will be looking forward to. We then go back onto the UK shores, and it's Oulton Park on the 27th of May on the international circuit before heading off to Snetterton after our week break on the 10th of June. So we went to Snetterton on the 10th of June before they go for another 2 rounds abroad. The first one being at the Circuit de Catalunya on the 17th of June. And then we go over to America to Lime Rock Park on the 24th of June. We also, for the first time in what will be the first time of touring cars racing at Silverstone International, of course, it was due to, and still will, potentially host a round of the British Touring Cars later this year, the international circuit for the first time on the British Touring Car calendar. We go there on the 1st of July, and then the Brands Hatch Grand Prix round, the final round of the championship, will be on the 8th of July. So we have 10 meetings of extraordinary racing to look forward to, stretching from the 29th of April all the way to the 8th of July, and hopefully by the time as well that the season finishes for the Power Max Racing E-Series, the real life racing series, the BTCC, and all the other racing series that we enjoy to watch on a weekly basis, they will be back as well around that time. Of course, Motorsport UK have postponed all motorsport currently until the 30th of June. So just as soon as we just start to get finished here on the Power Max Racing E-Series, that will be when the current date is pretty much when hopefully we can get the real cars back on the track. And the cars are now going back on track for another short session. As we see there, the Next Gen Racing car, number 13 of Jamie Dory, who's driving that one tonight. Jamie Dory's best lap so far, 1:13.904. And I'd like to thank the drivers as well, who have given up their time to help us with the media day today, with some of our stand-in drivers as such, who are helping with the media day event. And this session has just over half an hour to go, and still at the top of the times is the two drivers for XVR, Nicole Foggy and Johnny Brandon. So the two XVR drivers who will be racing, as I said earlier, in the championship full-time this season. They currently top the times. Other drivers, the notable drivers, who say Mark Fletcher and Chris Daines for Year One Racing, they will be racing with us as well, and not much separating them at all now. There's just 12 thousandths of a second. Also, Lane O'Connor is one of the drivers who'll be racing with us, and Ben Henderson. So, well, as I say, you've got 10 fantastic meetings of racing to watch, and thank you very much for tuning in to this Media Day broadcast and the introduction of the Paramax Racing E-Series powered by Next Gen Racing. We would like to give a huge thank you as well to our official E-Series partners, Next Gen Racing, VRA, the Virtual Racing Association, the XVR Sim Racing Team, and Year One Racing TV. Thank you very much for watching, and this is Dan Blake saying good night to you all. We've also heard from Andy McEwen as well on commentary. Unfortunately, Andy's had a few technical difficulties, but we'll look to get those solved for next week for you, and we bring coverage of the qualifiers by Graham Cesswood on cameras. And as I say, thank you everybody for watching, keep safe, and we'll see you for qualifying next week.